Hey ladies and gents, so today we begin our new unit, which focuses on fractured fairy tales or writing fictional narratives. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what a fractured fairy tale is. We're going to read a real fairy tale and then a fractured fairy tale, and then compare how the author changed one story and another. So what did the author change when they wrote their fractured fairy tale? I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson today. This is one of my favorite units of the entire year. And sit back and enjoy the lesson. Hello, ladies and gents. Today we start Unit 8 in writing, which focuses on fractured fairy tales or a fictional narrative. So today we're going to talk about what a fractured fairy tale is and what are the elements of a well-written story that you guys are going to write. So let's get started with this. We've all heard fairy tales. We've heard fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood. We've heard of the Three Little Pigs. We've heard of the Gingerbread Man. Fairy tales are stories about imaginary beings and lands that usually contain a lesson or a moral. But what is a fractured fairy tale? That is the question that we are going to answer today. A fractured fairy tale. Well, what does that have in it? That has the word fracture. Now, if you fracture a bone, what does that mean? You break it, right? So a fractured fairy tale is essentially a fairy tale that is broken, or a piece of it is taken off and changed or broken up a little bit. So for example, it's a story which makes use of a traditional fairy tale but restructures it and reimagines it, changes a different part of it. So for example, the author may change the main characters, they may change the setting, the problem, or the solution. Now, the author may change one, some, or all of these things. For example, one common fairy tale we have all read or heard before is the story of the Three Little Pigs. But in 1989, a story was written by this man named Jon Scieszka called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. In his book, was one of the first ever examples of something called a fractured fairy tale. What John did is he changed parts of the original Three Little Pigs story to make an all-new story that was slightly different from the original. So what are some things that authors change when they make a fractured fairy tale? When you think of a fairy tale that you are going to write for this project, I'm going to give you guys choices. And you can choose to change the characters in the story. So maybe if there's a story that there are animals like the Three Little Pigs, you can change the type of animal the character is. You can change who is bad and who is good. So I've seen some people make the Three Little Wolves and the Big Bad Pig. You can change the problem in the story. So maybe the pigs aren't trying to run away from the wolf. Maybe they contain the same characters, but the problem is a little bit different. The solution might be changed. So do you want it to be a happy ending? Do you want it to be a not so happy ending? So for example, in the Three Little Pigs, there are versions of that story that are fractured where in the end, the wolf, the bad guy, ends up winning. So indeed, the solution changes. You can change the setting. So change where the story takes place. And authors of fractured fairy tales change one, some, or all of these parts to make a new fairy tale. What makes a good fictional narrative? 1, you need to establish a situation. So for example, in the beginning of your piece, you need to make sure that you introduce the characters, narrator, or the point of view. And you need to clearly maintain the same characters, narrator, and point of view throughout the story. So for example, you want to introduce those characters. You want to introduce the setting. You want to make sure your reader knows, once upon a time, blank, blank, and blank lived in a blank. That is how you establish a situation. Your organization should unfold naturally. So you need to use transition words or phrases to make sure that your sequence of events makes sense. You need to have an effective conclusion. And of course, you need to use dialogue and description of actions, thoughts, and feelings to show how characters might react to a certain situation. So today, what you are going to do is you are going to watch 2 read-alouds, one of the original Three Little Pigs and one of Jon Scieszka's version of the Three Little Pigs called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. And then on a Google Doc, you are going to fill out the difference between the Three Little Pigs and the true story of the Three Little Pigs by looking at the characters, the setting, the problem, the major events, and the solution. So that is today's assignment. Let me know if you guys need any other help, but this has been the video for today. I hope you guys enjoy writing these. We're going to get started actually writing your fractured fairy tale next week. But if you want to try writing one on your own, I encourage you to give that a try as well. So have fun with this, and I hope you guys enjoy the story, the true story of the Three Little